Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. I'm glad that you're here tonight for our mission report. Our students went to St. Louis last week, and they got back last Friday, and I told them before they left that we wanted to do this fresh, like quickly after you guys get back. And so, are you guys still tired? But I'm glad that you guys are doing this for us. And here, I want to explain why we do things like this. And the reason comes right from Acts chapter 13 and 14. At the beginning of Acts chapter 13 it's really the very beginning of Paul's first missionary journey. And it says that this church, they're in Antioch, that they were worshiping the Lord and they were fasting. And the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart from me Barnabas and Saul for the work which I have called them." Then after they fasted, prayed, and laid hands on them, they sent them off. And so what we see in this passage is one of the things that the church does is we gather together and we pray and we worship, and then the Holy Spirit begins to work and to move in us to do what? To move us, to move individuals who have the gospel to a new place where it needs the gospel. And that's exactly what happened through the course of our ministry. The Spirit led us, led JP. We considered St. Louis, and now this is our second time actually going to the same place. And so we've kind of developed a partnership with this, with the Sin Relief Center. And so we see the Spirit working. We should expect, and you should expect, the Spirit would work in your heart to either send you personally on a mission trip or to pray for missionaries or to give and to fund missionary endeavors. All right, so we see that, and then they come back. 2 chapters later, at the end of chapter 14, it says this: after they arrived and gathered the church together, all right, so that's what we did, they reported everything that God had done with them and that he had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. And they spent considerable time with the disciples. Now, it doesn't say eating ice cream, but we have added that into our tradition. Some traditions are really good, are they not? All right. Okay, so that's what we're doing this evening is we want to hear a report from our missionaries, how they have seen the Lord working in their own lives, how they've seen the Lord working in the lives of those they're ministering to, and then how we have been a part of it in our prayers and in our giving. And so we're grateful for you guys once again for being here to share this evening. If you don't mind, I'd like to pray, and then I'll hand it over to you. Father, I'm even reminded as I'm reading through these two simple passages of how your Spirit helped and led and maneuvered the church. We, right now, are part of something that's much bigger than us. We are part of your kingdom, this kingdom that Jesus began to bring in through his life and his ministry, his death, his resurrection, his ascension. We are a part of what he is doing, and we get to play a part. We get to go. We get to be sent, and we're just grateful for that. And it's an honor. It's an honor to be a part of your mission, whether it's through our prayers, whether it's through our giving, or whether we get to go. And so I just thank you for these missionaries up on the stage and their efforts. And Father, I pray for them. I pray that as they have gone and have had a chance to minister, really what I pray is that you would solidify what it is you are teaching them about following Jesus, about serving you, and maybe you're even calling some of them to be missionaries into ministry or just to be missionaries in their vocations. We just ask a blessing upon their lives. Use them in a special way for your ministry. And I pray these things in your son's name. Amen. All right, JP.
Thank you. So, I'm going to go ahead and sit down. That way we're part of the whole team. But let me reiterate some of the stuff that I said this morning about what we did, and then I'll let the team talk about and answer the questions that I've prepped them for. There's 2 questions I told them before we left, and I reminded them of the last night we were there. Our 2 questions are, how did you see God work in our team or in yourself on this trip? And then how can they encourage you guys to go with us on the next one? Or on whatever the next one is the church does. It doesn't have to be to St. Louis. It can be next time we go to Wisconsin or wherever that case is. So that's the question they're going to be answering, is one of those two or both as they feel comfortable doing. But for our team, we did a whole lot of stuff. So as mentioned earlier, for Team B, we did a bunch of yard work and a whole bunch of hands-on things. One of the things they changed this year was the fact that on Thursday night, instead of us having sort of extra free time to ourselves and ending the day early, they started doing a thing called a community meal. And so we were supposed to provide an activity and to actually basically have an evening meal with the drop-in center guests. So if you noticed the pictures beforehand, there was some pictures of us at big circular tables doing different things. Andrew pulled me into a game of spades with two guys named Michael and Lawrence, and they beat us silly. Mainly because of my inexperience. I am from Ohio, and so I know euchre, not spades. I'm used to the trump changing and having about half as many tricks. So it wasn't Andrew's fault, it was mine. But it was a whole lot of fun just to play spades and get to talk to those guys. There was another guy sitting at the table playing chess with Miles, and his name was Charles. And so Charles whooped Miles a couple times at chess, and then Miles was like, "Would you like to play checkers?" And Charles was like, "I don't know how to play checkers." And Miles was like, "Great, I'll show you." So they played checkers for a little bit, and the five of us, or six of us, just sat there and had a conversation for a while. If you saw in the picture, because I didn't know we were doing community meal originally, I did the same game that we've done on Thanksgiving, that Ancient Artifacts, Modern Technology, where there's a picture of something. We ran that for them, and so we got to that started some conversations. I know that afterwards, Colton and Taylor talked to a lady named Morgan for quite a while. She was there past when they were closing the doors, just talking and having conversation. So getting to do all those things of where this year, surprisingly, Team A got to get out of the Center Relief Center and go do something sort of out away, but also Team B got to actually interact with some of our drop-in center guests and to feed into that and get to see the people that we've been ministering to and what we've been trying to set up and things like that. With that, though, for me to answer my own question for us, my favorite part of the week was honestly a game that we played as our group. I started the week on Sunday. We drove around to after church. We went to Faith Community Bible Church, which is where Michael and Tracy Bird. If you remember Michael, he came here during one of the VBSs where we were focused on him as one of the NAM missionaries. His wife Tracy runs the Center Relief Center, and so we went to church with them. Then we went back and had lunch, and then we drove around. We drove to the different sites where we were going to go, and different people from our team prayed at different sites. Then we went back to the Center Relief Center and did some team building games. And one of the games we played was called Unforgettable. And so I had all the teenagers sit in a circle, and I asked them, you have to go through and say what makes you unforgettable. And so we had all sorts of things, from the shoes that we wear, how we dress, the color of our hair, all sorts of crazy things. You can imagine what teenagers come up with, what makes them unforgettable. And it was a fun time. It also helped us memorize names and whatnot, and we played around with it a little bit through the week. But on the last night, after we'd gotten everything done, for our worship night, we did worship in the evenings, I circled us up again, and so when they came in, I put them in different seats, and I was like, did any of you recognize the circle? And pretty quickly, they were like, this is our circle from day one. And so then instead, we went around the circle. Instead of us talking about what we think makes us unforgettable, we spent an hour and a half of, okay, so how can we all encourage? What did we see in Andrew? He was the one sitting next to me at the time. What can we see in Andrew that makes him unforgettable? And for an hour and a half, these students and adults went around and encouraged one another. Every single person had something to say about someone. And all we did was encourage each other for what happened throughout the entire week. Some of them reached into other things of like, man, I appreciate that you do this year-round, like when I see you at church, whenever. But to see this group encourage one another was really quite special. On the fact of that's part of what we talked about all week. Our Bible studies started off with our heart attitude out of Philippians 2, and then we talked about why hard work is important out of Genesis 2, and then we talked about not being lazy out of Proverbs 6, and then we talked about we need to watch what we say out of Ephesians 4:29. And they really took that to heart. There was quite a bit of change of the encouragement, but particularly that last night. None of them complained about an hour and a half of of just sitting around and encouraging one another. In fact, when I mentioned how long it had been, one of the students was like, I thought it had been like 10 minutes. And so my thing of seeing God work in them was the relationships that were built as they played games, as they worked together all week long. And I'm excited to see how that continues on. So that's me. Now, let me read for our one student who is missing. So Miles Wilkerson was on the trip with us, but he had to go to JBA like immediately following. He was home for 18 hours, right? Yeah, he was home for 18 hours and then had to go to another camp where he's gone for 3 weeks. And so you can pray for the Wilkersons as they work through the fact that he's gone a whole lot. And if you want to send him mail, there is a place where you could send him mail to encourage him. But before he left, I'd given them the questions, and he wrote out his answers. So I'm going to read Miles' answers real fast to those 2 questions, and then whoever wants to hop in can start. For those holding the microphones, you'll have to turn them on. I did not do that beforehand. So Miles' answer to the fact of how he saw God working in himself or our group, he said, many of us have come out of our comfort zones this week, and we have been strengthened by God, giving us opportunities to share the gospel. The thing for him was the fact of he got to talk with some of the homeowners. He worked very hard. You'll see if you saw one of the pictures. He was the one in the backyard waving at the camera. Him and JD at our second site did a whole bunch of weed eating the entire time under the supervision of drill master, or drill sergeant over here, Bacon. But he enjoyed the fact of getting to have those conversations, and he did a great job talking with Charles at the drop-in center. Like, he wasn't there with them all week, but he hopped right in, and he found somebody, he found a game to play, and listening to some of their conversation, he was asking him questions about, what do you think about God? He was trying to do the best he could with the opportunity he had, and he did a phenomenal job all week. Now, as for his encouragement as to why you ought to go on a mission trip with us, he said, we've all grown closer to each other, and it is very fun time to work for the Lord and to bond with your group. So, just from one of our middle schoolers, his encouragement is the fact of this draws us closer together as brothers and sisters. And so you ought to think about how can God use you when there's an opportunity. Don't be afraid. If God's opening doors for you to go, go. And if you need more encouragement, write a letter to Miles, encourage him, and say, hey, what's the next trip I should go on? So, that being said, I don't want to take up all of our time. So who would like to go first and answer some of our questions and talk about our trip? Of course, it would be Jonathan.
So question 1 was, brain just stopped working. Remind me.
How did you see God work in you and our group?
So they were, including myself, I am not exactly the best at physical labor. I'm on the slightly more scrawny side. So really coming and doing 4 days of physical labor, it really shows what God can have us do and how we can help the community both here and in Ferguson, St. Louis. And then question 2 was, how can you... What?
Why was it important that we went? How can you encourage them to go with us?
Other people did? I mean, what was important of why we went was it both helps us come closer to God, as every single day we had a devotion in the morning and a little worship time in the night. And and also slowly building relationships with the people there and the community. Over time, after taking those little small steps, you eventually take one big step and over and over and over until you're a lot closer to them and you have an opportunity to share the gospel.
To answer question 2 of how I would encourage people to come. So when we go there, really what we're doing is we're helping out the community in almost any way we can. So like last year, what we did is we packed the boxes and sent them to do disaster relief from the tornado. This year what we did is we went to 2 different houses and a children's home and did yard work. So really whatever you do, you are helping the community in order to start gospel conversations. And so, yeah, if you do come, then A, you get the opportunity to help people, and B, you get to share the love of Jesus with everyone you help. So.
I'll take mine next. So, first question is, what's the way we grew? I was on Team A this year, meaning that I stayed in the drop-in center working with the individuals as they came through, and I am the only person from our team last year who is back on Team A this year. And I would like to say it has been such a delight this year to come alongside some of our younger youth and Miss Wood Nancy here and get to see how these younger youth have grown. At the beginning of the week, they were so timid to go up to these individuals, understandingly. It's a new place, it's new people, and by the end, they were playing spades, engaging in them with games, having conversations with them. And I think it is just such a testament to this group here, how they were able to, over the course of just 1 week, grow in their ability to meet new people and to have conversations with them. And then as for why you should go, I mean, I would be a supporter of any mission trip, but I'm a big fan of this one, as if you are on Team B and you're out in the field, you're going back to that motto that NAM had last year, which is meeting needs and changing lives. You are meeting these people's physical needs so you can open up opportunities to change their spiritual lives. And then if you're on Team A with me, you have the opportunity to have a captive audience while you have gospel conversations. I had the opportunity to sit down with a man for 3 hours, and we just worked through the gospel and had a conversation, and it was good, and it gave him the opportunity to grow. But then even more than that, it allowed him to connect with the workers at the center and the volunteers there, so that way he could build a more permanent, long-lasting relationship with Christ.
Okay, I was on Team B this year. And okay, question 1. God gave us the strength and energy to do all the work we did, from painting to pulling weeds. And question 2, if you want to grow, or if you want to glorify and grow God's kingdom, you will want to come on the next ministry trip, because the conversations that the youth and I had with the homeowners or anyone else at the drop-in center were just a blessing.
Okay, so what were the questions again? So the first question, oh my gosh, I forgot it already. I'd say I saw God work through our team by seeing others who wouldn't, I guess, naturally want to talk with others, who are naturally introverted. They went out and had conversations with people. I know that, including myself, people I wouldn't want to talk to or normally would talk to, I went out and talked to them and tried to build relationships and conversations with people. So I saw God work through us with being able to have conversations with people like that. And what was the second one? I would say I would encourage others to go because it is a very good experience. It does help you grow in your faith. You just get to learn more about the others you're going with, and it's just an amazing experience.
So I was on Team B, which was doing yard work. And in answer to question A, I found it really encouraging to be working alongside other people and seeing them all work really hard too. And then there was one night when we were doing like a community dinner and we're all talking to the people in the area. And another way I grew is probably getting pushed outside of my comfort zone in that way, possibly. And I also think I saw several other people getting pushed in the same way, which was really cool to see people all working together in that way. And then in answer to question 2, like I said, it was just really encouraging to see people working and working alongside of them. And we had a lot of fun. It was just an all-around good experience.
I was on Team A. We stayed in the drop-in center most of the time, and we did get to go out and see the sun the Thursday. Otherwise, we were in the same building for several days. And being a naturally introverted person, but being the leader of the team that had to talk to people we didn't know, like I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to do this. And so I tried to get outside of my own comfort zone and have conversations. And I had such good, long conversations. They got a little wild sometimes, but a lot of people there just needed somebody to talk to, just needed somebody to hear their story and truly listen. Because all of us have people around us that we can go talk to when we need to, and they don't. And so I had lots of good conversations with people like Morgan and Cody and Damon, and the list goes on and on. But it was really neat to see a lot of our students also step out of their comfort zone. And sometimes they needed playing cards in order to be able to start those conversations. But they were really encouraging to me, and I know they were really encouraging to the Sin Relief team. Tracy was really excited. She said, even though we are one of the youngest groups, most of the groups are more closer to being high school age. We just only had a few high schoolers. But she was really encouraged by our team's enthusiasm and excitement and just willingness to jump in. So I think to lead into question 2, like, I think you guys should be encouraged and challenged by the willingness of the youth to jump out of their comfort zone and to work and to do amazing things. And so whether that is coming on the next Sin Relief trip or going on the next Wisconsin trip or wherever it is that we go, going across this is my second plug of the day, going across the street to Grandview Lodge with us on Wednesday nights. There's so much work to be done. You just have to say yes. Whether you're comfortable with it or not, God's going to give you what you need in order to just be able to say yes.
Well, my answer to question 1 would be he helped me like pray more and volunteer to pray more out loud because I don't really pray out loud that much. And a way that I would encourage you to come next year is because it's like just really fun to be with people that you know and to learn more about God.
While Callie collects her thoughts real fast, I want to brag on this group since we're about halfway done with the team. As Casey said, this is a whole bunch of middle schoolers. And for Team B and for Team A. So Team A, it's more about getting outside your comfort zone and having conversations. It's not intensive labor. Although there's different aspects of what Team A had to do that breach into that realm. For Team B, it's working really hard. And quite honestly, I didn't hear a whole lot of complaining. One of the second house that we were at on Wednesday, particularly Jonathan, Kaylin, and Katie, there was a garden bed that had basically just become grass in the midst of a whole bunch of rose bushes. And so they had to dig out this very rough grass with those little claw things. And there was no shade where they were at. Like me, I'm I'm buzzing around with stuff in the back. I had a lawnmower at one point. I had clippers. I'm in the shade. JD and Miles are weed eating in the shade. The guy from the Centerleaf team, Daryl, he's on a riding lawnmower. Philip's trimming trees. We're over in the shade. They're in the sun the whole time, just sitting there, just digging at this grass. And not once when I walked by were they complaining. They were joking around, having fun. In fact, Kaylin, every time she pulled up a section of weeds, she'd hold them and go, look at these beautiful roots, right? There's several pictures that Miss Rebecca took of the beautiful roots on these plants. They found ways to make it fun. And they encouraged one another. And they helped each other take breaks, right? Because it was hard and it was hot. But even within that, the other houses, the first house where we had several people in between two sets of fences cutting things out of the fence, they didn't complain. It wasn't the fact of like the 4 adults are here dragging them through this, kicking and screaming, and their attitudes are horrible the entire time. They had good attitudes throughout. They encouraged one another. They had fun. They joked around. Different ones talked to the homeowners. I know Colton talked with our first homeowner, Miss Diane, so much that she found a snake in the yard, and she named the snake after him. These teenagers, they weren't there just pouting and wishing they had their cell phones or wishing they were back with their friends. They did the work, and they did it well. And they showed the attitude that goes with the work. The fact of they're here joyfully doing these things. They're not here begrudgingly. They chose to take a week out of their summer rather than laying around on the couch or doing something else to go and work at people's houses. And they did a phenomenal job. So, be very proud if you're a parent of these teenagers, but also as a church, we should be proud of our teenagers and the fact of that's the harder part to get, is the right attitude with it. We can get people to do stuff at times, but these teenagers had a great attitude throughout the entire week. All right. Miss Callie, are you ready?
So, how the trip impacted, like, me or the group? Okay, I was gonna say me. How did it change? Like, how did I change? Okay, so at first, like, I was on Team A, we like talked to people that like came in and like gave them stuff. At first, the first day I did laundry, so we didn't talk to people, and like very much. Like we would just like ask them what they wanted and stuff. And then the second day was like I had to actually be in there and talk to people, and I didn't like that one as much because like it was like awkward, kind of like having to like talk to people. It was like hard, like starting conversations. So I kind of didn't, and I just went with my mom and like followed her, kind of like did what she was doing. And then the third day, I did the same thing. But it was like, the third day. Yeah, and I did the same thing kind of, but like I actually like did stuff instead of just following my mom around. And so what I did was like I learned how to do like card games, like spades and stuff like that. It was actually kind of fun. I thought it'd be boring, but it wasn't, because like the other people would make it fun. Because if it was just like with like my friends, it would be boring. But like it was funner, because like I don't know, they just made it funner. And then how would I get people to come? I would like tell them that it was like fun, because it was. And like I learned a lot of new things about like myself and other people, and that like, is that good enough? Okay, then yeah.
So I was on Team A, which was me and the drop-in center with 4 other people. So I'm going to be answering question 2. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I know.
Why should your brother go with us next time? Call him out.
So, my brother Brayden, the reason he should be going with us next year and a bunch more people, because we can be teaching people about the gospel. The reason that God put us on this earth was to teach people so they can follow him. And it's a bunch of fun too. And when you be on Team A, you can get to know people and really go through their story and teach them about the gospel and what Jesus did for us. And if you be on Team B, like a lot of these people, you can be doing yard work and you can be interacting with folks in a different way.
To answer the question too, they should go with us because everyone was very encouraging, and I learned a lot from everyone else, and it was fun.
Okay, so JP talked about a lot of what I was going to talk about, which is okay, there's more to say. Just with Team B, I was on Team B with Pastor JP and Philip and several kids, and it was hard work, really hard work, and they did it without complaining, and they encouraged each other the whole time, and they helped each other, and specifically, he was talking about the flower bed that was full of weeds that took so much time, and they were just determined to do it and do it well, not just do the bare minimum. And it took hours in the sun. And so I was really encouraged by that and just the good attitudes. On the last day, not the last full day, when we were at the children's home, Kaylin and Katie and I were tasked with cleaning a house. They have housing there for families that need it, and one family had just moved out, and another family was moving in the next couple of days, and it was a job. Wasn't it, girls? It was a big job. And then JD joined us after lunch and cleaned the fridge thoroughly. But Katie tackled the kitchen, which was a big job, without complaining. Kaylin tackled all the floors, and there were things stuck to the floor. It was just, imagine, it's just a huge job, no complaining. And we were able to hear from Ms. Vaughn at the children's home about what they do there. She took the time to talk to us first, which I really loved that the youth got to hear that, and I got to hear what they do there. They do so much at the children's home, so much. They have housing for pregnant teens there. They have housing for families that need a place. They train hundreds of foster families in the area. They're about to start a prison reentry care system where they move there right out of prison with their kids. And so just a lot that they're doing. They need a lot of support. So it's just really neat to hear about that, really neat to be part of it and pray over the family that will be moving into that home. But I was just impressed by how much we tackled that together without complaints, just such hard work. Another thing that stood out is just, it was really neat to get to know some of these teens that I didn't know before, to see them get out of their comfort zone, to see, we did riddles, we did questions on the bus rides, the different sites. We just had a lot of fun, and it was just, I just really enjoyed getting to know them better. And it's just really encouraging to see everything they're doing at Sin Relief and how they included us in what they're doing, and we can be praying for them. So I'm going to speak to the adults in the room more. I mean, youth, of course, should go on trips, but when I was asked last minute, closer to the trip to go, and JP even said, I expect you to tell me no. And I said, I'll pray about it, I'll talk to Joe, and I thought, there is no way. If you know me, there's a lot going on in my life right now. my daughters are getting married. There's just a lot happening. And I thought, and I have a bunch of other kids too, right? And so I thought, there's no way this will not work. And I talked to Joe, and he's like, why not? And and so I'm like, what will we do with Julian while the other ones are here? And he's like, he can come to work with me, or I can take time off. Like, every thought in my mind, he's like, we will make it work. You should go. And when we first got there, if I'm honest, it took me a minute to be present because my mind was on everything here. Like, it took me a good day. And then once we got going on Monday, I didn't have a chance to think about hardly anything here because we were busy. Like, it was nonstop. JP even told me I could bring my laptop to work on VBS or wedding planning, and I did, but I did not have time, and that was okay. And there is something very unique about being just pulled out of your regular life and dumped into missions nonstop for a week, and God really worked in my heart through that. It's just a very unique thing. And so I would encourage you, whether it be Sin Relief or overseas missions or Wisconsin or anything else that's available to you as an adult of 5 kids, if like you can do it, And so there may be seasons where you can't, but it's not impossible. And I'm so thankful that I listened to my wise husband and I went. And I'm so thankful I got the opportunity to get to know these kids. And I'm so thankful that, and also, if you know me, I haven't done a lot of hard labor outside. My husband and my boys do that for me. Like, they take care of all of those things. JD does a lot of yard work, Titus does. And so I did a lot of things I wasn't used to. And JD didn't think I could do it. He said that before we left, Mom, you can't be on Team B. But I did it. You can do hard things. I had my SPF. You did say that. I had my SPF 100 on me, for my fair skin, and I did it. And so anyway, I just want to encourage you, like, you can do missions, whatever age you are. I just want to encourage you in that. So.
How do you follow that? Right? This is cheating. And I also think it's cheating. So JP said I had to go last because we all know I can fill more than an hour. Easy over there, guy. No, so it's really good. I want you guys to go ahead and open your Bibles to 07Jun. No. So we were going to originally do this as the Bacon Clan going. So that was going to be an interesting week. Apparently, one of my kids, we had her too late in the year because she was too young. So that threw a wrench in that. But it has been awesome to see that one. Yeah, you're still mine. With the interacting and everything else. So as a parent on the trip, it's really cool. So youth parents, sign up. Number 2 would be the fact of getting to see the youth, like I think Andrew mentioned, where we have older, we have younger, but even within the younger middle school range, they are still very diverse in how they are, and seeing them interacting well was cool to see. So I think within that, and I know talking with JP last year, it was the fact of it breaks down a lot of barriers, a lot of little walls that we have within the youth. They come back a lot more united and cohesive. So that was fun to get to see the results last year, and cool to actually get to see it happening this year. So you've got them sitting out there. Kaylin and Jonathan were on the back fence. Jonathan was between the fences. Kaylin's on the other side, and they're just like, okay, cool. Yeah, you guys know each other. And hearing Kaylin later that night being like, oh, we had great conversations. We were just talking about all sorts of things. Huh. Cool. Get it. So that was cool to see. And I think that's God uniting his people in mission, in work. What are we called to do? What Taylor was saying is the fact of like, hey, we are going to spread the gospel. You had those in Team A that had the opportunity to more intentionally do that because they're stuck in a building for 3 days straight and have nowhere to go, and they loved their field trip. It was great. Because I was also the only one that switched teams. So Team C, Team Chauffeur was where it's at. But seeing the growth, the engagement that they had, and it's not just the conversations. It's also being hands and feet. We continually were talking, because I know Andrew at one point was like, after your 3-hour conversation, you're like, I just wish he would get it. You're like, cool. I agree. But with that, we're not here year round. We're here, we are planting seeds. And with any of that, it's cool. Some are going to get to plant. Some are going to get to water. Some are going to get to harvest. But ultimately, have we been faithful to what we've been called to in the time that we are called to it? Are we being faithful in what God has presented to us? So that was cool. And then even with that, seeing the passion of like, I don't say almost, not the brokenness, but like concerned for others' eternal state of like, hey, I will sit here and have a 3-hour conversation with you, going to the moon and back in many cases, because that's how random the conversations get. And being broken for souls. And that is really cool to see. So going into the why do you come? Why do this? It's for that. It's seeing God's people working, seeing God working, and getting to be a part of ultimately what he's called us to do. And as we are going, as we are living our lives, yes, this is a step out from our normal. I had the beauty and the privileges of basically getting to turn my phone off and not having to worry about work. That's a blessing right there. But taking that time that I've earned and actually applying it to kingdom work. Because ultimately that's what we're called to. We're not called to the beach. Not saying have an issue going to the beach, but we do kingdom work. That's what we're here for. And I think the biggest thing like I said, I wax eloquent. I think one of the things the guys didn't see, I know the adults were tracking, one of the Send Relief workers, when it goes into like what's the biggest impact on me, one of the Send Relief workers' wife ended up having a preemie. During that same time, basement flooded. Christine and I knew all about that and how much it stinks. But like, they were gone. So you've got this coming out. This is their first kid. Just all the struggles. I mean, if you want to talk about getting everything thrown at you, they were getting it. But you would not have been able to tell if he did not, if Miss Tracy didn't tell us about it, like we would not have known. Because that's ultimately the heart that he had. It's, hey, I am struggling. We are struggling. And at times it's, God, where are you? But that did not change his heart to helping those that are less fortunate. So that was just a huge encouragement, I know for me. I can keep going.
Does anyone have any specific questions for the team? Just spitball anything. Anything we didn't cover. Miss Joanna. Andrew needs a microphone.
I know it's already been mentioned a lot over the course of tonight and today, but our neighbors, the Grandview Lodge, are a very prominent example of this, and one that, okay, they have a living situation, but it is not a permanent one. And that is very similar to a lot of the people that we have been working with over the course of the last week. And I think that it's a very similar situation, and it can be applied. And many of the things we have learned and picked up over the course of the last week, many of the ways you can minister to the people in St. Louis can be brought back here, and we can use them to minister to those who are literally right next door.
Other questions? Brad. Yeah. So Team A, stand up. This will be the easier one. So Andrew, Miss Casey, Philip, Callie, and Taylor were on Team A for us. And then on Thursday, we traded Philip to them as the bus driver. So, because they asked us on Wednesday night, they're like, hey, so we're thinking about doing this. Like, so can Miss Casey drive the bus? And I was like, I was like, but you can have Philip. So, because me and him were the only ones that were on the insurance to be able to do that for the church. So, you guys can sit back down. Everybody else who was sitting down is on Team B. So, that's Jonathan. That's Jonathan, by the way. He was always our first hand in the air. I do want to encourage Jonathan, since he just stood up and singled himself out. When we did that encouragement circle on Thursday night, I mean, we're talking about encouraging your fellow students and whatnot, and his hand was the first one in the air every time. Every single time. To the point where I started actually ignoring him. He'd keep his hand in the air, I'd look straight at him, and I'd say somebody else's name. And so we had a little bit of fun with that. But I didn't want to let him always get the first word in. But he was always eager. He always had something to say. He always had something encouraging of like, I've seen you do this. And that's the kind of attitude that we've had on this trip. So, any other questions? Going once. I'm really fine with awkward silences. Going twice. 3 times. Sold. All right. Guys, this was a really fun trip. I really enjoyed this group, and I'm looking forward to next year. In fact, we're looking at possibly going back for a single-day trip in August. It'll be August 22nd, I believe. But they have a single serve day where it's free. We just have to bring a group, and so we would travel down in the morning. We'd work all day, and we'd come back. So I'm contacting through their stuff to get that ironed out. But we had some students who really wanted to go back. We also had some students who went with us last year that didn't get to go with us this year that really wanted us to find another spot. And it just so happens that they have one that doesn't monetarily affect us, but allows us to go and serve. And so me and Philip asked a couple questions of the team there of like, is there ways that we can work other stuff around? For next year, and thinking through that, talking with one of the workers, Josh, I asked him about ways that we could help for next year, since they do run a drop-in center, and so like they provide bags of toiletries for people, they provide different things for the homeless. We can do like a sort of donation drive before we head to camp so that we can take stuff with us. And so part of that would be for next year, be thinking about what things might you donate. On that part. They need clothes. They're starting up a store where basically they give the people a certain number of points. They can come in and they can select clothing from what people have donated. And so that they were still working on getting that up and running. I think the first day that it was open actually was the day after we left, or the afternoon after we left, with some of that. And they're still organizing it upstairs. But if you have clothes right now that you're like, I'm going to get rid of these, maybe donate them to church and we can take them down to St. Louis. Or if you know of a place in town, donate them there. But we want to do all that we can to serve them. As we talked about with the teenagers on that final night, our final Bible study was very short, very, very short, after that hour and a half of encouragement, but it was on Matthew 28:18-20, and the fact of it's some of you probably already are thinking in your head of Matthew 28:18-20, go therefore make disciples of all nations. The wording there is not just go and do it and then come back, but the idea of it as we go. And so what we talked about for our brief Bible study that final night was this ought not be the fact that we went here for a week and then we go home and we snuff out that candle and we just go back to our normal routine. But the fact of how do we keep that fire that we either fanned or reignited on this trip, and how do we bring it back here and use it? Similar to the question that Miss Joanna asked. So, I'd say as we head into ice cream after I pray, these kids are on fire right now. So if you need someone to rekindle an ember or maybe just another flame to come alongside to sort of invigorate the flame of you serving God, come and ask them some questions. Come spend time. They'll be at different tables. They're not all going to just gather around one individual table. Come and ask them questions. Ask what they did, how they saw God working in different things. Ask them about the conversations they had with homeowners or with people in the drop-in center. Come and ask them and just catch the fervor they have for serving God. Okay? Let me pray for us, and then we'll head to ice cream. God, thank you so much for this evening. Lord, as Pastor Anthony pointed out, it's not about just getting it and gathering it for ourselves, but it is about taking it to the nations. It is about the fact of this was a group effort. We raised money to help lower the cost. The parents spent so much time in getting students prepared for this and worrying about students while they were there, praying for them. The church was praying for them. Lord, this is not just the 15 individuals sitting on the stage, but this is a work of you through our entire church. And so, Lord, I thank you for us getting to see that tonight. I pray that as we head towards ice cream, that we get to have good conversations and that we get to talk about the things that you've done in our life. As we mentioned this morning, it is vitally important that we went and we met the needs of the people, but even more so, our desire is that you would change their lives, whether that was through seeds that we planted, watering that we did, or the fact of how you're going to see a harvest through the work of the Center Relief as they continue to have teams coming in throughout the summer and as they're with these people year-round. But I also pray that as we understand how to do that and do it better, or to get new ideas of how we can do it here, that we plant seeds here and that we water seeds here, and that hopefully you will send the growth and show us the harvest, because you are the one who grows. We can plant, we can water, but you provide the growth. And I pray that we are about doing that here. Let us bring it home and serve you here. I pray all these things in your name. Amen.